In the last video, we saw that our main routine seemed to exit the instant it had created all of its child Go routines. And so we very quickly learned that as soon as our main routine has ran out of code to execute, the entire program will quit, even though we still have these other child routines running. We then spoke about how we can solve this issue by using a channel to communicate between all these different Go routines. So essentially, we'll create a channel that we can use to say, hey, has this Go routine finished? Has this Go routine finished? Has this one finished? Okay, now the main routine can exit. No sooner. Now, using channels isn't quite that easy, so we're going to learn a lot of interesting rules and kind of some oddities around them as we start to use them. The other big thing that we learned about channels is that they are typed. So the data or the messages that we send through a channel must be always of the same type, corresponding to however we created the channel. So let's look back over to our code. So here's our main function. Inside of here, we're going to create our first channel, and then we'll use it to communicate between our different Go routines. So immediately underneath our slice right here, I'm going to create our new channel. I'm going to say C, short for channel, will be make chan, and then we're going to place the type of data that we want to communicate over this channel. So in this case, we'll say that we want to communicate through the channel with values of type string. So this right here is how we create a brand new channel. We've seen the make keyword before. It is a built-in function that will create a value out of the given type. So we create this channel and we assign it to this variable string, or excuse me, C, not string. So now C is our channel and we are free to pass it around our application. Now we have to treat this channel, even though we use it for communication and all this special stuff, we treat it just like any other value inside of our application. So if we expect the Go routine that is launched by this line of code right here, like if we expect the code inside of check_link, like this actual function, to be able to use this channel, we have to pass the channel into that function. The value right here, or this variable, uses all the same scoping rules that we use with other variables inside of Go. So this variable C is only accessible inside of this main function. We can't just magically make reference to it inside of check_link. So essentially, we need to make sure that we pass in this channel to the check_link function. Then check_link, which will be executed inside of a Go routine, will have the ability to communicate back over to this main function. So as a second argument to check_link, I'm going to pass in the channel that we just created. So this variable C, like so. Now, of course, we did just pass in an additional argument to check_link, so we need to make sure that we modify the argument list in here appropriately. So as a second argument, we are going to expect to see a variable that we'll call C, short for channel again. It is of type channel, which is abbreviated to be simply chan. And then even here, we also have to declare what type of data we expect to share over the channel. And so just like we had said before, we expect to share values of type string. We have to declare that down here as well. So I'm going to say C is going to be a channel. You can communicate over it only with strings. Okay, so now our check_link function has access to the channel, and we can use it to communicate from any Go routine that is running the check_link function and our main function. So now the question very quickly becomes, well, how do we actually communicate? How do we send messages between our main function and the check_link function? So this is where we're going to introduce a new piece of syntax in Go. And this is actually kind of a fun piece of syntax. I rather like it myself. Okay, so here's what it looks like. This is how we send data through channels. So remember that our channel is kind of like a two-way messaging device. We can think of it as being like text messaging. So there's always going to be one person who is sending a message, and then another person, or another entity, I should say, for our program, who is receiving that message. So for us, we might want to send data from the main routine to all of our child Go routines. Or we might want to send data from our Go routine and receive it over inside the main routine. So with that in mind, let's go through these different pieces of syntax. The first is the way in which we would send some data into a channel. So if we want to send the number 5 into our channel, we would say channel, and then a little arrow like so, and then the value that we want to send into it. So that's like if you pulled out your cell phone right now and you opened up your Messenger app, you typed a message in, and you clicked send. That's what we're doing right here. We are inputting a value and sending it into the channel. Now, on the flip side, someone eventually has to receive that value. So we can receive values out of a channel, and you can think of this as being like someone who receives your text message and pulls out their phone, unlocks it, and reads your text message. That's done by placing a variable to receive the message into, an arrow, and then the name of the channel. So essentially we are saying, wait for a value to come through our channel, and when it does, assign that value to my number. And then as a little bit of advanced syntax, we do not always have to take a value out of a channel and assign it to a variable. We can just as easily say, hey, watch channel, whenever a value comes out of it, use it as an argument to this println function. So we can take values directly out of a channel and pass them off to functions just like this right here. And as a matter of fact, I think this will be the first little bit of syntax we try. So rather than trying to receive a message into a variable, I think that we'll first start off by trying to print a message out directly. So let's try this out right now. Let's say that we do not want to do anything with checklink until it has successfully retrieved some actual URL. So let's say after we have retrieved a URL, let's send a message into our channel. And then we'll receive it over inside of our main function right here, and we'll just print out whatever we send. So I'm going to put this channel sending message in two very specific locations. And we're going to talk very shortly about why we're choosing these two specific spots. So right underneath our println statement inside the if statement here, I'm going to say send a message into our channel. So we say into the channel, send, and then the value that we want to send. So I'm going to send in a string that says might be down, I think. And then if we find that the website is actually up or the link is actually up, we're going to send in a different message. So down here underneath the other println statement, we'll say, yep, it's up, like so. Now back inside of our main function, we're going to add a statement to receive that data from the channel. So underneath our for statement, so directly underneath the for loop right here, let's print out. So we'll say format.println, and then we're going to receive a value from the channel. So we'll say arrow like so, and then C. Okay, so the syntax we used in both cases here is following exactly what we just saw in the slide right here. So we can place a value, the arrow, and then the channel we want to send the message into. And then on the flip side of that, so in another Go routine, we can add in either a variable assignment or a function call. So in this case, we are using a function call. We are saying receive the value out of this channel and immediately log it. So let's run this code and see what happens. I'm going to save the file. I'm going to make sure I don't have any red squigglies in here that indicate an error. It looks like I'm good. So I'm going to flip back over to my terminal and I'm going to run this program again. Okay, so this time around, we got exactly one log statement here, and then it looks like we exited the program again. So it looks like the one that we got was google.com. So it says here google.com is up, and then we saw our communication through the channel, the text, yep, it's up. Now if I keep running this, it looks like every single time it's Google. Now, seems a little bit weird that we're only getting one communication here, rather than all the different pieces of communication. So this is actually exposing us to one of the really big, interesting things around channels. So let's take a quick pause. We're going to come back in the next section and we're going to talk about exactly why we are only receiving one communication over the channel and then exiting from our program. So quick break, we'll come back in just a second.